It is the Halloween season, with it being just around the corner, and of course it's the thrills and chills time of year. Of course it's time to watch those old horror movies and maybe get into a horror game or two, and that's what Outpost 13 is supposed to be. Can this point-and-click horror game bring the suspense that is connected to the genre, or will it sort of die out before it even gets started? That's what I'm here to answer at this point, but before I begin, this key was obtained from the developer for the purposes of review, and I also have a key to give away, which I will base on the comments below. So the game is set on a remote science station, and you play as Fenrir the dog. Basically, you love your master, and you're just a dog, out in the middle of nowhere, basically. Now, here's the thing about Fenrir. He's sort of got an evil entity that he's sort of contracted during this called Tantalus. Basically, the idea here is that, Tantalus is evil, and once the scientists discover it, they want to take Fenrir apart, see what makes him tick, why he got this entity, or, what exactly is going on with Fenrir. Well, of course, Fenrir isn't exactly happy about that, nor is Tantalus, and, the thing occurs. Well, that's what people say this game is based off the thing. While there are similarities with the remote outpost and the use of a dog that's not really a dog, the idea here is that, Tantalus is a demon. He kills things. It's a horror movie. Deal with it. Now, from here, the story gets a little bit strange because it doesn't explain a lot. The idea here is that Fenrir and Tantalus have been identified, some information has gone to the outside world, and Fenrir and Tantalus now have to figure out a way to survive. The easiest way that the game comes to the conclusion to is basically cause chaos around the outpost in question, killing people, causing a little bit of panic and overall terror that is in this outpost's environment at this point, and they do that by interacting with the environment, as well as, playing tricks on people and actually axing them off. Fenrir has to go around basically figuring out how to take these guys out one by one by one. He does that by messing with his environment. He's able to hit buttons, he's able to mix chemicals for some reason, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure dogs don't have opposable thumbs. But who am I to question? Now, there are 3 times a day that you have to be aware of. There's the morning, which basically is when you get your shit done. You take out people, you try to figure out exactly what to do next. Basically, this is when you're going to kill people. I know during the morning is unusual, but that's what it is in this game. Then you have the evening, which is actually sort of a rest period. Basically, nothing happens here until you go to the night phase. The night phase is actually sort of a research phase. Basically, you go through the vents and figure out what people are doing, what they have to offer, and try to find information to help you out during the morning phase. Alright, so I got the basics out of the way. How does the game play, and how does the game present itself? Well, it's summed up in one phrase for me. Problems, problems, problems. See, the thing is that this game was a kickstarted game, and the fact of the matter is it didn't get a lot of money. 309 backers with $4,790 to work with. That's not a lot of game development that can be done via that kind of budget. And unfortunately, it shows in this game all over the place. The bread and butter of this game is supposed to be the puzzle element, or at least what I think is supposed to be the bread and butter of this game. The idea here is that you use the interactables around you and use the people around you to figure out how you take them out one by one without getting caught. You see that little bar up there in terms of that skull? You can do a couple of actions, but people may notice you, and if they notice you, it will go down, to the point where you will actually not be able to do anything for that room for a period of time because people are too suspicious of you. They did figure out that some people died earlier. See, there's about 4 puzzles that I would say that you have to deal with, and those puzzles are very simple. A major problem in the game is the lack of interactables. The fact of the matter is that if you had more to work with, then you could figure out exactly what you needed to do, or maybe there could be multiple solution sets. Instead, what you get is a very straightforward experience. Okay, I need a number for this number pad. Let me go find something that has a number on it, and because of the lack of interactables, unfortunately, it's pretty clear what the number is, so you only do certain combinations of that number. That's the problem. You don't have to think very hard in order to get past these puzzles, and with them being such a meat of the game, unfortunately, it passes by you very quickly, and you feel like the experience is overall, what's the word I'm looking for? It's shallow. It also doesn't help that it suffers from other point-and-click adventure type of game problems, and episodic problems as well, without taking into account for that in the design. What am I talking about? Well, there's hard to tell in terms of some of the interactables, and that's compounded by the fact that the world is so big. The fact of the matter is that this game's environment is huge, and there's not much in it. There's a lot of times where you're just going to be walking around for no good reason because you're exploring, but there's nothing to do. There's no one there. There's nothing there to actually interact with. Why is it there? In a lot of episodic games, you would barrier that off if this is the world that you intend the characters to stay in. But instead, you can walk around all this space and do nothing in it. This also is compounded by the fact that the world here, there's no other way to put it at this point. The world building sucks, and it's crucial for this type of point-and-click adventure game. You don't know much about the world, but you do want to know something about it. You want to be connected to the characters a little bit so that their impact of their deaths or their, knockouts actually mean something. Instead, you're so disconnected without little interaction with the environment as well as the people involved. You don't know anything about the world. You don't care what happens. And because you don't care what happens, you don't really feel the impact when you actually kill someone. Some information about the characters, them talking or, seeing them interact with each other would have helped this a lot. But instead, what you get is a situation where you just don't really care. The fact is that they're sort of lambs to the slaughter. And the thing is that they're not helped by the impact of those deaths. Take an example of this scene, and I'm going to spoil this scene for you guys because of the fact that, I need to show you an example. There's absolutely no sound impact when I crush this guy's hands. And why? The thing is that I didn't feel the impact of that. Sure, the blood squirting all over the place, fine. That did a job. But you know what would have really sold it? That sound effect. The fact that he's panicking, the breathing, the splurting of blood at that point, and it loses its effect over time because, again, it's void of life in the environment. Sound design, it's bad. Look, I'm not expecting the level of quality that would come into The Walking Dead Season 1 by Telltale, for example, but this medium in particular tells you a story, and the idea here is that world building is so vastly important to it. If you don't execute on this game is going to feel lifeless, and this is probably the worst sin that this game could create for itself. Hell, I'm struggling to actually finish this review at this point because there's so little footage that I can use that doesn't spoil things because there's so little to do overall. That's the big problem here. How do I present you guys this information without spoiling what little there is? To say the game is short is an understatement. By the time that I figured out what to do, it only took me less than an hour to actually get to the credits, and that's also because of some bugs, by the way, which I'll get to later on. But the fact is, there's not a lot of content here, and unfortunately, that is a huge problem for a $10 game. It doesn't help that the technical side of things isn't there as well. The fact of the matter is that there are small things that really bothered me about this game. When I click on something and then I click on something else, I expect the second click to take priority, not the first. And the thing is that this led to some times where I double saved or even went through a day a little bit further than I wanted to because I accidentally clicked twice. There's things like that that really bothered me, but then there are things like the pause menu, and I use pause with air quotes there. See, if I hit escape, I go back to the main title screen. At first you'd think, oh, like every other game, that's a pause menu. But no, you're on the title screen at this point. If you hit continue, it loads your last save, and you just basically exited out of the game without saving. That's a horrible, horrible implementation, and I do have to question the developer on why he chose to do that. Unfortunately for him, this makes the problems, that much greater with this game, especially when one little push of a button causes you to lose progress. The game also does have bugs. Now, some of them have been fixed by the time this video has come out with an update or two, but the problem is that this caused major problems for me. There were times that I got caught in screens, of course, those problems are fixed. But then there were times there where I was actually able to skip content of the game because of the fact that the game just sort of glitched out. In fact, when I first defeated the game and actually got to the credits screen, I didn't even know there was an end time in terms of an evening-night section of the game. Yeah, that information that you need from that night section was critical for a key code as well as understanding exactly what a person needed in order to get them out of the room. They just sort of happened. In fact, I actually entered a random number based on the thing, which actually I ended up thinking was wrong, and somehow that worked. Now, that number, nowhere close to the number in question that was actually the solution to the problem, but somehow it actually ended up working at that point. That's a huge problem, and there are major technical issues all over the place for this game. Look, the game has a great concept behind it, and the idea of being the monster in a monster movie is fantastic. The thing is that this game didn't get a lot of money on Kickstarter, and with the limited funds that it was able to gather, unfortunately what it's made it is an experience that isn't fun at all at this point. Now, a lot of features were cut, for example, like the idea of being able to have character progression. Great, wonderful, except for the fact that I have to base it off what this game is now. Not its future potential, but it's now. And the thing is, this Act 1, there's so many other better games out there in the point-and-click genre that I can't recommend this game. It's got too many problems all over the place, too little world building, and I just don't care what happens in this game. The scenes are few and far between, and there's just not enough content. And unfortunately, that means I have to give a pass in terms of recommendation for this game. Again, good potential, but unfortunately it just wasn't going to fill the genre that it was trying to, and unfortunately for the developer, you just bit off a lot more than you could chew at this point. Anyway, this is Dragnix signing out, and I hope you got an idea of what I thought of Outpost 13. I will leave my Steam review in the comments section below, or not the comments section, actually the description, but you know what I mean, and leave your comments on how I can improve these videos, as well as your thoughts on Outpost 13 and what you saw here. Again, like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz, and I will see you guys later. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this content and want to see more of it, you may want to hit that subscribe button on the left hand side. If you like this video and want to see more of this content, take a look at this video on the left hand side as well. And if you'd missed my last video, take a look at the right hand side. Once again, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.